And we are officially live. Hello, guys, and welcome to the Fleming Film Show. Today, I don't have Justin. He's at Disneyland. He decided to go to Disneyland, so he thought that'd be better than recording. So, today, I have got a brand new guest helping me with this show today. It's Josh Hickey from Joshua Hickey's Movie Reviews and Fandom. I love Josh Hickey's YouTube channel. I've been dying to get him on the show. Hello, Josh. How you been?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about our favourite films that are Marvel films but are not in the MCU. I thought we would do this today to celebrate the release of the new Doctor Strange film coming out. Are you looking forward to Doctor Strange, Josh?
Yeah, but I am very worried about how it is going to end with these certain characters.
Yeah, I reckon it'll end on a dark one for some reason.
Yeah,
I'm
but
going to see it on Thursday,
I'm
so
not sure how I feel about one becoming a villain.
that will be interesting. I don't think it will
Yeah,
that will be interesting.
yeah.
There's so many ways it could play out.
I want character redemption arcs. I don't want character de-evolution arcs.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, Josh, what would be your number five if you had to pick
Okay. Well, these were
your favorite non-MCU film?
in no particular order, but I have the first one written down as Spider-Man 2 from 2004, Tobey Maguire.
What do you like about this movie, then, Josh?
Because it actually takes everything that was great about the first film. Because okay, so the first Spider-Man movie is really good too, but I pointed this out in my review that I did when Far From Home was coming out. Is that a lot of it's really cheesy, but it's cheesy in a good way. But like, the comics were like that too. If you go back and watch the '60s comics, a lot of times you can actually almost match the voice to the villains as Cobra Commander from the GI Joe cartoon because they're very cartoony. I want to get you next time, right? So this one's less cartoony. It's less of a cartoon. It's less. I'll get you next time, Spider-Man. It's a little bit more dark. There's a little bit more of a character study in there, and it actually does set up the relationship between Harry and Peter very, very well. Because of course, spoiler alert for the movie that came out almost 20 years ago. Of course, the end of that film, uh, Harry Osborn unmasks Peter and figures out, oh, Spider. And so and then he sees the ghost of the ghost of his father, and he says he has to become the new Goblin. And that's such a great setup, which is why it's so disappointing that the third one is so bad because it had such a great setup because it really did a good job of expanding that friendship throughout the course of the first two films, and then destroying it, and then make you think, okay, now they're going to have this big battle, and it ended up just completely ruining it. But I really enjoyed the character arc that Peter goes through as well. It really took everything that was great about the first film and just did everything 10 times better. Had a better villain who you can actually sympathize with because Green Goblin, he was crazy. But Doc Ock is more of a villain that he doesn't start out with the intention of being evil. He just wants to do something to help himself. And then it's the reckless science that ends up making him go crazy. But even then, there is a redemption arc at the end of that movie because he ends up sacrificing himself to stop the New York City from blowing up, which is why I was like, how is No Way Home going to work if he's a villain all of a sudden? Doesn't that kind of negate the character arc? But I like what they did with it in No Way Home. So.
Definitely. I do. I will be talking about Spider-Man 2 just in a little bit, but right now I'm going to talk about my number five, and it's 2016 classic Deadpool.
Yeah.
I know you don't like R-rated movies yourself. I love this movie
I
because
did
of my
watch I watched an edited version of it. There's a service called VidAngel, and when it first came out, we were going to edit everything out. I kid you not, the movie was like maybe 45 minutes, and it was like watching an incredibly scratched disc because so much of it skipped. Like, it's not worth it. So, yeah.
Right, but yeah, I love Deadpool because of Ryan Reynolds' performance and the directing and the writing. The writing is really good in this film because it kind of plays off all the superhero tropes and also adds a couple of like 4-4 gags, which is really funny. Makes references to XMen, makes references to Ryan Reynolds and other movies he's in. I just think it's a really clever film for a Marvel film, and that's why I had to put it on this list. So my number five is Deadpool.
I did like the cartoon version of that's shown up in a couple of Spider-Man cartoons. I'm surprised Disney allowed that. Because I mean, they didn't even own Fox at the time that they had him on Ultimate Spider-Man and 2. Obviously, it's a very R-rated character. But
the edited version of Deadpool 2.
I'm talking about Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. There was an episode where he crosses over with Spider-Man. It's funny because they know that they can't have him be the same way as in the comics because it's a kid show and it's, aimed at like 8-year-olds. So they're like, well, we can't say the word kill. So it's like, well, dude, don't say the K word. Just say that we're going to unalive them. So it proves that it can work in a cleaner, more family-friendly sphere. So they can make make fun of the fact that he is having to sort of clean himself up. So have that be the joke. They did do a PG-13 version of the second film, which I did go and see.
Yeah, I was just mentioned that.
Yeah,
it had Fred Savage in.
But even then, I was like,
like hunted together because it reminded me of Princess Bride, which is what it was parodying.
Yeah, I still would have cleaned a lot of that movie up though. I'm like, okay, all you did was take out the F words and some of the violence. A lot of the jokes were still really, really inappropriate. I'm like, I still would have cleaned this up. It was like the hardest PG-13 they could have got. I'm like, okay. So.
Yeah. And what would your number 4 be?
X-Men United.
X-Men 2?
Yeah, X-Men United. Yep, X-Men 2.
Yeah, it's called X-Men 2 in the UK.
Yeah, X2 X-Men United over here. So, honestly, I mean, again, in some ways it is dated because, like, there's this one part where they're in the van and they turn on the radio and there's Backstreet Boys or whatever it is. So in some ways it's like this very much as an early 2000s film, like even some of the effects. But it has such a great story, especially that opening scene with Nightcrawler in the White House. That is probably one of the best opening scenes in any superhero movie.
Definitely, I agree with you there.
Yeah, the first time I saw this was like right before I think Apocalypse came out, and I didn't know anything about any of these characters or anything. And as soon as that scene happened, I'm like, okay, next to Wolverine, he's my favorite character in this movie. So, which is why I'm mad about what they did to him in Dark Phoenix. So,
well, you're lucky because my number 4 is also an X-Men movie. It's Days of Futures Past.
Yeah, that's on my list as well. That's actually right after the one after United. So it's like it's not the next one, but it's the one after that. It's like number 2.
Even though I do not like the director of this movie for fair enough reasons, I think this film is a masterpiece because it really mixes up what we've just seen in First Class, as well as reunite us with all the classic X-Men characters we all love. I think Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy are both great as Professor X and Magneto. Michael Fassbender, what an actor, and Ian McKellen is a legend.
Oh yeah,
both performing well. And yeah, I like the 70s. I like the future with all the Sentinels. I think the story really works for this movie, and I really credit it as one of the best superhero films of its era.
And Peter Dinklage is the villain.
Yes, Peter Dinklage is the villain.
He later went on to be the giant dwarf in Infinity War. That's kind of funny.
I hope he comes back for 4. I hope he comes back for 4.
Yeah. Okay, the next one on the list is First Class, X-Men First Class. So
nice.
That one is so wildly different than all the other X-Men movies because
it is.
The other ones are like so comic booky, and that's fine. They're very much in their own comic book. This one is more of, I want to say like the Incredibles. Close thing to compare it to is maybe the Incredibles, which was also going for that 1960s sort of aesthetic.
Yeah,
because it's about a real thing that happened, which was the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Exactly.
They also kind of add a little bit of a superhero spin to it, which makes it incredibly interesting. And you also get to see the friendship between Professor X and Magneto. What's interesting is that this actually was supposed to be an X-Men Origins Magneto film. I remember after I saw X-Men Origins Wolverine, at the time I was a dumb 12-year-old. I liked it when it first came out. I still like some of it. I think up until the last 30 minutes, it's still a pretty decent film. It's still a pretty decent revenge film, kind of in the style of a Western, even if it is a little bit bogged down with too many other cameos, because they were supposed to make so many other X-Men Origins films. Like if you had gone on IMDb at the time that it came out, you would have seen coming soon, X-Men Origins Cyclops, coming soon, X-Men Origins Magneto. Yeah, and I was like, oh, cool, they're doing X-Men Origins Gambit, which we're still supposedly getting, but it's been like 20 years since they announced that, though. So, yeah, but I remember it's like, oh, X-Men Origins Magneto, that's next coming out. And then, of course, that movie did incredibly poorly, both at the box office and with audiences and with critics. Like, okay. But they had already written most of the script for Magneto. They were already ready to go, but they're like, well, we can't do an X-Men Origins film, so let's just take what we have of the Magneto script and then try and rework it to be kind of a different type of movie. But I think it worked well enough for what it did. So First Class, it's such a great movie because you really, especially just kind of the aesthetic and everything. It's funny because Catwoman from the Batman movies in it. She's what's her name? Pixie? Is that her name?
Yeah, Pixie.
Whatever her name is, but yeah. So that's kind of funny. Like watching that a few days ago, I was like, wait a minute, that's Catwoman. So,
I know. It is after that I saw her in Mad Max Fury Road, and I'm like, wait,
yeah,
that's the girl from X-Men.
yeah,
Yeah. Do you want to hear my third favorite
yeah.
Marvel film outside the MCU? It's a Disney film that not many people know is a Marvel film. It's Big Hero 6. Do you like this movie, Josh?
Oh heck yeah! In fact, I did a ranking of uh, my top. It was like after Encanto came out. That's the 60th animated Disney film. If you don't count Pixar, if you don't count any of the direct-to-video
Yeah.
stuff, that was back in like November. I don't remember exactly where I placed it, but I think it was in the top. If it wasn't the top 10, it was at least the top 20. But it was pretty high up there. So
Yeah, I think it'd be my top 10 if I did my ranking, but I like a lot of modern like Disney films.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, there's already a TV show of it on Disney Plus, but I think it ended, but they're doing another one later in the summer. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be a full-fledged show or if it's shorts. They've been very unclear on that.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm excited to get more. I mean, if we're not going to get a sequel, at least we're getting something. So.
Yeah, but I like this movie because it really plays on the idea that anybody can be a superhero. Yeah. And also, I like the idea of obviously a magical world full of superheroes. I'm just trying to know where it would fit into the Marvel universe. I would not imagine it to be like a TV show they watch.
I would say, well, it's actually based on a Japanese manga, so I would say it's probably like kind of another universe. It's not the MCU, but I think the idea is that Stan Lee is sort of like the god of the Marvel universe. Like he can exist omnisciently and omnipresently, as evidenced by the MCU. He can be in space in one movie, and then he can be in Wakanda in the next movie, and then all this stuff can happen, and it won't affect him. That's kind of the idea they're going with. He's, actually, I think in the comics, he's going to be called the One Above All, which is basically God. So I think to some degree, it is another parallel universe that runs adjacent to the Marvel universe. But I'm excited that. Also, actually, I think it is in the Marvel because they're at the college. You can see that one of the scientist kids is putting what looks like a Iron Man tech on a cat, making the cat fly with Iron Man tech. So
nice.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it because it actually, unlike a lot of the other Disney movies where we're just going to kill people off like that they actually give you the chance to actually know the character that they kill off. And then when they finally kill the character off, you actually feel something. It's not just what the parents are like, no, it's the older brother. The spoiler alert. It's the older brother that dies, 30 minutes into that movie. And it doesn't just gloss over the death like a lot of the other ones do. Like even with Bambi's mom, they kind of gloss over that pretty quickly. They let you feel, then they move on from it fairly quickly compared to the Hero 6. But you actually get to see Hero going through the 5 stages of grief and everything, which I think is important. So
yeah, and I like how his name's Hero.
Yeah, well, it's spelled differently though. I think it's pronounced like Hero, like they put more emphasis on it because it's Japanese. But also, I like the instead of it being like a fusion of like San Francisco and Tokyo. It's just so cool to see that because San Francisco, of course, has Chinatown and everything. And also, it kind of has that sort of SpiderVerse aesthetic to it too, a little bit.
Definitely. Kind of a bit like Ant-Man. I kind of say them two endings are quite similar.
Especially because the villain's plan is very similar too. Because of course, Kingpin's plan in SpiderVerse is I'm going to use the multiverse dimension thing to try and get my family back, and then the villain in this movie wants to get his daughter back. So
yeah.
And you have Alan Tudyk, and he's the villain. So, well, he's not the villain. He's the red herring villain. But yeah, and of course, Baymax is of course amazing and adorable, and everybody loves him. So.
Nice. Glad we could talk about that film because I do think it's a bit underappreciated at times.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad we're getting a TV show. So
definitely. What's the next film on your list?
Days of Future Past, which we already talked about to some degree.
Lovely. Yeah, we both agree that we both like this movie.
Yeah.
Great movie. So do you want me to tell you about my number 2?
Yeah.
My number 2 is Logan, which I think in terms of filmmaking is one of Marvel's best films.
Yeah, I didn't see it. So.
Yeah. Obviously, I know it's obviously very violent, but it's like a Western, and this is set in the future where Logan is like aged because of obviously all the mutants are dead apart from him and Professor X, who's like got Alzheimer's and he's like dying. and they're also like having help from this another version of Caliban. This one's actually British in this one, not like the one from Apocalypse. It's a completely different Caliban. And anyway, Logan finds out that these people are after him for his DNA and that they're testing on children that are mutants. And one of the mutants that's escaped, it was made from his DNA. So him and Charles are on the run from this company. And obviously, it's quite tragic what happens to him at the end. And I think that this is a fantastic film in terms of filmmaking and in like storytelling, as Hugh Jackman pulls off this fantastic performance that really grips you into why you like love this character for the last 17 years. And both him and Patrick put on their best and make it what it is, and that's why Logan's my number 2.
Right.
So what would be your favorite non-MCU Marvel film then?
If it's not MCU, I was going to say No Way Home, but it's SpiderVerse.
Nice, good choice.
Spider-Man into the SpiderVerse.
What do you like about this movie?
There's so many different animation styles for one, and there's all these different characters, and everybody's got a character because you have Miles Morales, which is more of a traditional comic book type style, complete with the little dots and everything. If you really zoom in, which some people didn't care for, but I thought it was fine. And then Spider-Ham is a little bit more of a Looney Tunes style, and then
he's my favorite actually. Spider-Man.
John Mulaney, which is funny. He's going to be in the new Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie.
I'm looking forward to that. That's the best live action animated film since Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, but he's in that too. Roger Rabbit's in it too. Yeah, actually, the plot looks very similar to Roger Rabbit as well, because all these tunes go missing and they have to go find them. But anyway, back on topic. ADHD bird. So, of course, there's somebody who has a very manga anime style, and then you have Spider-Man Noir, which is very black and white Batman type of aesthetic, and the writing's very witty, and it looks very much like an animated comic book, and all the characters go through its great journey. I'm very excited to see what they do with Spider-Verse 2 and 3. And I'm a little disappointed they delayed it, but at least I hope they get it right. They take all the time they need. So
nice. I do like in SpiderVerse. It did miss my list because my number 1 is a SpiderMan film, because Spider-Man's my favorite superhero in the MCU, and you've already mentioned it. It's Spider-Man 2 for all the reasons you said, and because I think this film is a masterpiece. Full stop. This is the best film Marvel's ever done compared to any of the MCU films, in my opinion. I just love this movie. I can watch it. When I last watched it for my review, I did a couple of Mondays ago. Today is Monday. I normally review a Marvel film for the website. So this is a Marvel Monday bonus episode, if you'd like to call this. But Spider-Man 2 is the best movie I've ever seen. And
the only reason I'd say Spider-Verse is better is because it didn't have a disappointing follow-up.
Yeah, but I don't mind Spider-Man 3 as much as other people, because I do still have a laugh out of it because it's silly.
It's just, it's almost unwatchable for me.
Yeah, I get it might be unwatchable for some, but for me, it's a pretty fun, enjoyable ride. Yeah. Any other MCU films, non-MCU films that are in the Marvel films that you want to talk about?
I don't know. I think I talked about all the good ones. I mean, there's plenty of ones that were just not so good.
Yeah, let's talk about the bad ones.
Oh boy,
it's always fun to talk about the bad ones.
Oh boy, Fantastic Four. Some of them are slightly better. None of the Fantastic Four movies are good. Let's just get another way. None of the Fantastic Four movies are good.
No, do you want to know why I think that? Because I feel like they always overuse Doctor Doom when they have so many other villains.
Well, no, I think it's the fact that it is... Because going back to the thing of it was a comic from the 60s, and they were trying to get that comic from the 60s feel, but it's also live action. So it doesn't work. It comes off as very, very silly. If they were animated, it might have worked better. Just to give pointers, the first Fantastic Four from 2005 is PG-13, but then Silver Surfer, which is the sequel, is PG. So even they knew it. Yes, even they knew it was like slightly more child-friendly, slightly more silly. And then there's Fate Force Stick, which was just so awful. It was just so awful. And I wanted to like it because it was Josh Trank, and he did Chronicle, which is like one of the best non-Marvel superhero movies ever, because it's a superhero movie that's not really a superhero movie, and it's so different, and it's such a great movie. And then they did that. And we're like, okay. What? Why? And of course, we had the first Marvel movie ever, which, yeah, Howard the Duck.
Trash. Even though it is fun to watch, it is trash.
Yeah,
You
it's
can't
just like,
watch it every day.
you're like, huh, George Lucas did this. Oh, okay.
Daredevil's one of the worst.
Yeah.
And so is Elektra. I hate Elektra.
Yeah. Then there was when we did Spider-Man 3. I think the Amazing Spider-Man movies get more hate than they deserve, but they definitely are flawed. Again, going back to the thing of this was once a script for another movie. Amazing Spider-Man, they were supposed to do Spider-Man 4 with Sam Raimi. But then after, it was not very well received, they had already had some of that script written. The Lizard was supposed to be the villain in Spider-Man 4. So they just took that and got rid of Raimi and then just reworked it to be an origin story. So it feels like an amalgamation of what could have been Spider-Man 4 mixed with a reboot. Like, why does the reboot need to be an origin story, right? Homecoming proved that you can do the reboot without having to be the origin story.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then Amazing Spider-Man 2, to some degree, okay, again, I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 gets more hate than it deserves.
I actually like Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I do think it does have a lot of the same purpose Spider-Man 3 has, namely it is very overstuffed, because they were trying to do a Sinister Six movie, and then Spider-Man 3, and then Spider-Man 4, and Spider-Man 5, and so they're trying to set up all these other character arcs like Black Cat and Vulture and all these other characters. But I think the relationship between Peter and Gwen is very well done. That is a very strong point of the movie because, again, spoiler, when she dies in the end, that actually does make it all the more tragic because the relationship has been so fleshed out by that point. So that stuff's good. It just doesn't know how to stay with one story. It feels like it's going in a bazillion different directions. So,
no worries. What's your opinion on Ang Lee's Hulk? Because I have a guilty pleasure for that one.
Oh boy. I mean, I like the style of it. I like how they tried to do a comic book type style.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's well stylized, but that's about it. I think about it.
Fair enough. I like how it's directed. It's just a bit slow in the story.
It's at least, I don't know. The Incredible Hulk of 2008 isn't that good either. But
no, I recently rewatched it for the next week's review.
Like, this is boring. Up until the last 30 minutes, it's just boring. So
literally, like you said it.
Yeah.
You said it. I recently rewatched Ghost Rider. I thought that was quite fun.
I didn't see that. I haven't seen that in a while. I might have to again because Nicolas Cage, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you expecting from Doctor Strange?
I don't want to have expectations because I was one of the few people that said no. There's no way that Andrew Garfield is coming back for No Way Home because of outside influences from the studio. He had a falling out with Sony. I'm like, there's no way. They had such a falling out. He's not coming back. And I said the same thing with Tobey Maguire. I was like, look at his IMDb page. The last thing he was in was Great Gatsby, which came out in 2013. There's no way he's coming back for this. And I was wrong. So I don't want to have any expectations about
I'm looking forward to him being in Damien Chazelle's new movie, Babylon.
Yeah. So, I'm glad to see he's getting work again. That's actually relevant work. So that's good, especially after he has been gone for so long.
I know.
I think Spider-Man 3 kind of tainted people's opinion of him, even though he was not the problem. He did what he was told to do. The problem was the writing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even the actors hated that movie. You go and look at interviews from when Spider-Man 3 came out, they're all crapping on it. They're like, yeah, we only returned because we were under contract. We all hated the script. So
I can imagine. But we get to see Sam Raimi return for Doctor Strange.
Yeah, which makes you wonder what they're going to do. See, when they said this, when they first announced it, they said, oh yeah, it's going to be a horror movie. And of course, Sam Raimi is very famous for doing, or I guess in some place infamous for doing horror movies. And
yes.
I mean, not just, he also did the Poltergeist remake, which I know some people are mixed on, but I think he did a good job with it. He didn't direct it, he produced it, but he had a lot of influence.
I plan to watch all the films he's directed and do a list for October for when I do my horror-themed month.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you seen his other movies outside Spider-Man?
Drag Me to Hell and Poltergeist are the only other two that I've seen.
Oh, you've not seen the Oz film?
Wait, what? Oh, yeah, That's Great. I forgot he did that. Yeah, That's Great Powerful. Yeah, that's a great one, too. It's not horror. That's why they come to my mind.
Yeah, that's probably why. But yeah, I'm going to explore more of Sam Raimi after Yeah, I'm seeing Doctor Strange
Yeah.
on Thursday night.
Yeah, so but it's interesting because they first announced it. When they announced it, Scott Derrickson was the director who did the first Doctor Strange film, and then for one reason or another, he dropped out. They kept advertising it like this is going to be the MCU's first horror film. It's going to be, and then Kevin Feige goes on stage, clarifies. Let me clarify: this film will be PG-13. It's a horror film, but it will still be PG-13. So I don't know if maybe he wanted to go a little too dark for them. They went with Sam Raimi. So it'll be interesting to see what Sam Raimi can do with it.
PG-13 is like
Yeah.
15 in the UK, I think.
Well, it depends because I've seen some movies that get a rated R rating here, and then they become like a 12 or a 15 over where you are. So I don't know. There's different ways of it.
Yeah. Cody, who was a friend of mine, he explained to me the whole rating system when we were talking about R-rated superhero films. He says it's very messy.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, there are some movies that were made in the 80s that are PG, but if you were to watch them now, they'd be PG-13 or rated R.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely. I feel the same when you see a film rated 12, and I'm like, this will be rated a 15 now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then sometimes it's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes movies are like, that was a little too harsh already. Like the 2018 Grinch movie with Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm like, why was this PG? There was nothing inappropriate in this movie at all. And it said mild, rude humor. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it's the Grinch. You're not supposed to imitate the character. It's a character. Like, you're not supposed to like this character. Of course it's going to be rude. That's the whole point of the story. Why is this PG?
Yeah.
Or like the My Little Pony movie. That's also PG. I'm like, okay, the My Little Pony movie is PG, but The Hunchback of Notre Dame from Disney, which is based on a very dark novel, and two, even the movie within the first 5 minutes has attempted infanticide and murder, and then throughout the film explores the corruption of the church and lust and murder and all this other dark stuff that you don't see in this movie. And it's rated G. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, like that. So I'm going to start finishing the episode soon. I'm going to be counting down our list. So my number 5 was Deadpool. What was your number 5?
Spider-Man 2. Again, these are no particular order. Let me just clarify. These are in no particular order. This is just my last minute, like writing them down.
My number 4 was X-Men: Days of Future Past.
X-Men United.
My number 3 was Big Hero 6.
X-Men First Class.
My number 2 was Logan.
Days of Future Past.
And my number 1 was Spider-Man 2.
And mine was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Our lists are very similar.
Yeah, very, very, very similar. I'm kind of glad that me and you have a good, have a similar film taste, and that's why I'm glad that we connected. If you weren't into the same stuff I wouldn't be watching your YouTube channel, and I wouldn't be trying to get in contact with you on being on this show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Do you have what me and Justin do at the end of the episode? Is we have a film recommendation? What would yours be this week?
So recommendation for what? Like for this week?
Any film, like a film that you just love watching, or a new film that you've seen and thought, wow, this is amazing. Just pick any film you want.
Underrated. Well, since we're doing superhero movies that are like I said, this is not a Marvel movie, but it is a superhero movie. I talked about it right. It's Chronicle. And if you want to see, the way I look at it is, George Lucas wanted to tell the story of Anakin and the prequels, wanted to tell the downfall, and I think he told it well enough. But if you want to see a much better, like if Anakin were like an actually well-written character and a much better acted character, watch Chronicle, because it is very much about hubris and the downfall of a character. It's kind of a supervillain origin movie, but it's also a found footage superhero movie too, which is interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's found footage. I mean, it's obviously not presented to be real, like Blair Witch or stuff like that, but it very much, yeah.
Sounds interesting. Who's in it, if you don't mind me asking?
Dane DeHaan, who actually played Green Goblin in Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is funny.
Oh, nice. I like Dane DeHaan.
Yeah, Dane DeHaan's in it. That's the only actor I can remember off the top of my head who was in it, but
Is Michael B. Jordan in it?
Yes, I forgot he was in it. Yeah, he's in that too. Yeah.
See, I love Michael B. Jordan here at Robbie's Review, so we'll be checking that out.
Yeah, let me check IMDb real quick. Let me see who else is in it. Let me look up on IMDb.
Miles Teller isn't in it, is he?
No, he's not. Yeah, Dana, Michael B. Jordan. Those are the only two actors that I recognize from this list. But yeah, the writer. Why do I know that name?
What's his name?
Oh, Max Landis. Like, why do I know that name from the writer? That's why he did a really terrible Frankenstein movie like 10 years ago. Anyway.
Nice.
Yeah.
So my recommendation for this week is Nicolas Cage's new film, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I saw this Friday night and I absolutely enjoyed every single second of it. I didn't yawn once when I went to the cinema. I had an absolute blast watching it. It's just an entertaining film ride. If you love Nicolas Cage and you love action movies, then this is one for you guys to check out.
Right.
Nice, Josh. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to bring you back another time so
Cool.
we can obviously talk about movies and stuff we love.
Yeah.
I want to do more Doctor Who stuff one day, so I'll have to bring you on for that.
Nice.
Nice. I say thank you guys for listening. What are your favorite Marvel films that are outside the MCU? Let us know in the comments down below. I don't know what I'm going to be doing with Justin next week, but I hope you tune in for more of the Fleming Film Show when we next do an episode. Thank you once again, Josh, for coming on, and I'll see you very soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.